We're going to talk about from pain into power, and this is going to be one of those talks, and it's going to be a long talk. So I do hope you stay with me for the entire call. And I just want to introduce myself. My name is Miles, and I'm from Narcovery. And today, what I want to explore is what it is that we need to face to overcome and recover from narcissistic abuse, and the journey through narcissistic abuse. It's a journey of what? It's healing, understanding ourselves, and just even understanding what we're up against. And today, what I want to explore is just some difficult concepts. But I promise you, what you're going to do is you're going to find healing, you're going to find inspiration along the way, and this live is likely going to be over an hour. So I do hope that you stay with me all the way to the end. And if you can, the recording will be up, so you can watch it later. And the reason this is so long is just because it's been packed with just so much information, and it's just important things that I really wanted to share, and I think it could be life changing for so many, because when it comes down to it, what ends up happening is recovery is just really confusing, and much of the problems that we face in recovery is that society itself often perpetuates this confusion with just a tendency to blame victims rather than acknowledge the narcissistic dynamics that are at play. And you'll be asking yourself, and you might be thinking, was it really that bad? Or am I overreacting? That could be something that's popping around in your head right now. And this internal battle can be exhausting, especially when you've been conditioned to doubt your own reality. And that's what narcissists do. They make you question your reality. And when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it's like even when they're gone, like the thoughts and the dynamics, they still exist in our own mind. But remember, it's not just you. It's a common experience that I see all the time with my clients, and who've been just manipulated by narcissists, who represent the clinical definition of deception, a charming exterior to the outside world. And that makes things, recovery and our own understanding, very confusing. And guess what? The narcissist's true nature only comes forward after you've invested a lot of emotional energy into the relationship. And what ends up happening is, to outsiders, it may seem like it's easy for someone to just leave an abusive relationship with a narcissist after a visible incident, and they might think, why don't you just walk away? But here's the reality. Internally, survivors of narcissism struggle with cognitive dissonance, which creates this whirlwind of conflicting thoughts and emotions. And it's like being pulled into two different directions all at once, compounded by the damaging effects and conditioning. And things like, intermittent reinforcement. It's like one moment, the narcissist can be charming and loving, and the next, they're cold and they're cruel. And this inconsistency leaves us questioning our own reality, making it hard to see the situation for what it truly is. And navigating narcissistic abuse is no small feat. And recognizing these dynamics is a powerful step towards healing. And, for many survivors of narcissistic abuse, there's an ongoing struggle to decide whether their experiences constitute actual abuse. So, to understand this better, let's talk about abuse dynamics. Because in the early stages of a relationship, narcissistic abusers only show you their most appealing behavior. The narcissist may shower you with affection, with praise and attention, and what we often call love bombing. And this creates this false sense of security, leading us to believe that, we found someone truly special. But once a narcissist hooks us on their line, we secure an attachment, and the facade slips away and the narcissist behavior shifts. And this is where the narcissistic devaluation begins. It's like being on a roller coaster ride. Yeah, it's exciting at first, but then you realize the drop is far steeper than you anticipated. So we're starting to see the psychological impact of narcissistic abuse, and we can see how overwhelming it can be. And victims of narcissistic abuse, they often struggle mentally to process the sudden changes in the abuser's personality. Because, one minute the narcissist is a charming prince or the princess, and then the next they're cold and they're cruel. And this inconsistency leaves us feeling disoriented, questioning our worth, our sanity, and the duration of recovery and the ability to cope with narcissistic trauma is different for everyone. My clients all seem to process trauma differently. When I meet with a client for the first time, everyone wants to know, how long it's going to take. And the answer back is it depends on how far you want to go. Because you can go as far as you want. Initial recovery involves, stabilizing the nervous system. And for some, that's enough. So like, it could be a couple months. Others, the nervous system takes a bit longer to reset. And in those cases, we need to move on to shadow work and some inner child work. And once that's done, then we reset the nervous system and then the work is done. Others who are suffering from complex trauma, it's we have to use a different technique. It's called titration. And that's where it's just like what we end up doing is we have to find stability. We have to face our fears and find stability and face our fears. And once eventually, as we keep going through that process, we find that core fear. We reset the nervous system, and boom, the work is done. The benefit to this process, the one where you have to use titration, is you end up becoming your own therapist, and in time, you learn to self-soothe. You learn to reset your own nervous system, and whenever a trigger arises, because a trigger is just a sign of work that still needs to be done, and we end up saying, "Oh, I know how to do that work," and then you do it yourself. And it all depends on how deep you want to go. But no matter how deep you want to go, the tools are available to become self-healing over time. And it's my job with all my clients to one day be out of a job. To give them the skills and tools in order for them to do that, and then I work with somebody else, and that's kind of been the process that I've been working towards, and it's a very rewarding process because it's just like even the people that I heal go on to heal other people, and that just makes my heart feel really proud. So what are the factors to consider when it comes to narcissism? Well, we need to think about the length of the relationship, the severity of the narcissistic abuse, and the resources available. So they're also incredibly important. And people in active abuse situations, it takes longer to recover since they're still being triggered, and wounds never really get a chance to fully heal when new wounds are forming as older ones start to heal. And the important thing to remember is you play a crucial role in your own healing journey. And the stuff the narcissists or antisocial abusers are really good at is manipulation. Narcissists use gaslighting, a tactic that allows them to deny their actions and create a supportive, public image that contradicts the one that's privately, the one that's doing the abuse to you. And this affects our cognitive ability to ground and to function. Imagine trying to, live a normal life and you're in the middle of an earthquake 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's what it could be like because the ground is constantly shifting, the goalposts are constantly moving, and we end up finding ourselves doubting our own experiences, wondering if we're imagining things or feeling like we're the ones that are at fault. So it makes sense why the decision to leave a narcissist is even more complicated, because we're not only battling with the external pressures of narcissistic relationships, but we're also internalizing beliefs that the abuser can instill into us. And trauma that's inflicted by a narcissistic abuse can affect anyone, regardless of their background or previous disposition. And what I'm saying is that we are all vulnerable to narcissistic manipulation, all of us, everyone. And what fact is, 15% of my clients right now are actually therapists. So, even having training and skills in mental health still makes people vulnerable. And there's nothing wrong with you. You were targeted, yes, but that's because there's something wrong with the narcissist, the way that they think, the way that they behave, the way that they manipulate. They're the ones that are messed up, and they're messed up in an order to mess you up, in order to make them feel company. Right? Because this makes sense. They're messed up and they want to make you messed up. So all of a sudden they're not alone. Right. So that's the perpetual cycle of this chaos making, right? And it doesn't matter how strong or resilient that we think we are. Anyone can fall, prey to emotional manipulation from a narcissist. Anyone, including me. If you find this is resonating with you, and these experiences are resonating with you, it's important to talk about that experience. It's like watching this live, posting your questions, seeing that there are others here with you, that your feelings are valid, that your journey towards healing is uniquely yours. When we talk about our experience with a narcissist, when we do, we validate our experiences and we learn that, yeah, we too were victims at one time, but only one time. Right? Once we learn from our experiences with a narcissist, we learn what our vulnerabilities are. And once we learn those, we heal, we grow, we move on with our lives better, stronger, wiser than we ever were before the relationship itself. And since recovery from narcissistic abuse is so hard, be compassionate with yourself. Recognize that the struggles that we face make sense given what we've been through. Healing from narcissism is a process. So there are going to be times when we have to take it week by week, sometimes day by day, sometimes hour by hour, and even sometimes just one breath at a time. And in the end, just like all my clients I've worked with discover that we learn, without any doubt that we are worthy of love, happiness, and the freedom to reclaim our life from all twisted forms of narcissistic abuse. Now, I want to unpack a misconception. And that's one about narcissism abuse survivors. It's a common myth that only those with low self esteem become victims of narcissistic abuse. We might think, oh, that could happen to me, but it can't happen to me. It never happened to me. I'm confident. But here's the real shocker. Narcissistic abuse is kind of like a thief in the night that targets everyone of all confidence levels. Because narcissists, what do? They love a challenge. And the bigger the challenge, the bigger the rush that they have. They like to destroy what is beautiful and those people who are beautiful. Narcissists can worm their way into anyone's life, regardless of how strong or self assured you may seem. And the truth is that the covert, damaging nature of narcissistic abuse is designed to ensnare us, leaving even those who are strong, making us feel very vulnerable and exposed. So let's go deeper into the impact of narcissistic abuse, because regardless of how confident you felt in the beginning before you met your narcissist, the nature of narcissistic abuse can leave you feeling like a shell of your former self. It's like waking up one day and realizing that your reflection no longer resembles you, but it's a ghost of who you used to be. And many of us know that I got my narcissistic abuse clinician training from Dr. Ramani. And if you follow her too, you'll see that she often emphasizes that trauma doesn't discriminate. It impacts the brain in deeply psychological ways, proving that no one is completely immune to its effects. Our mind may have been once a fortress, may start to feel like a maze with walls the narcissist uses to close in around us. And when we start to unpack, we look at the vulnerability and the deception. We start to see the role of childhood trauma. These past experiences can make us more susceptible to narcissistic relationships. And narcissists and sociopaths and psychopaths have a knack for spotting people with these vulnerabilities, often wearing a mask of charm and charisma in the early stages of the relationship. And narcissists, reel us in only to just pull the rug when we least expect it. And it's like being on a fishing line, hooked by the very person that you would thought would support and uplift you. And once a narcissistic abuser has us hooked, well, they can begin this cycle of the devaluation and mistreatment. And this is where true trauma of the narcissist sets in. The emotional toll can be immense. And we may find ourselves wondering how we ended up in this sinkhole that, seems to have no bottom. So it's so important when recovering from narcissistic abuse to get professional help, to get validation, and to get the resources you need to recover. Because the cognitive dissonance and the traumatic bonding can feel like an anchor that's kind of pulling you down, making it feel so hard to swim to the surface. And finding a trauma-informed counselor who specializes in complex PTSD can be crucial for effective recovery. Not all therapists have trauma training, and I would even argue that most don't. Some do. Some may even know more than just the plain DSM-5 definition of narcissism is. And some may even know the effects, and may even know that the complicated nature of these abuse tactics. But there are many out there that don't. right? So it's just be informed that you're looking, if you're when you are searching for somebody, that you do find somebody that has that specific training and that specific background. Because narcissism recovery, or narcovery for short, just like my logo, is one of those places that you can go to. And there are others. So do your research. Go online and do research, because you deserve to find a safe place that fits with you, where you can untangle the mess and find clarity from what a narcissist has done to your mind. And my personal approach is hypnotherapy, just to calm the mind and nervous system, and then using different, trauma informed processes to get at the deeper trauma, whether it's IFS or DBT or somatic work or breath work or self care or mindfulness and education. These are all mixed into all my recovery programs. Now, our journey of healing from narcissistic abuse is not linear. What ends up being is this windy road with, unexpected turns and twists and challenges. But just like a phoenix rising from the ashes, you see, that's my logo. We too can reclaim our lives, because healing from narcissism is a process, and you are worthy of love and happiness on the other side of the struggle. So it's important for anyone recovering from narcissistic abuse to understand that leaving these toxic relationships is not just a choice. It's a powerful act of reclaiming your life. Going no contact with a narcissist can feel like climbing a mountain, but it's a journey worth taking. You deserve to break free and reclaim your own personal power post abuse. And let's be honest, the road to leaving a narcissist isn't easy. It's often filled with bumps and hurdles, which challenges the misconception that staying is a reflection of your strength and intelligence, because it's not. If it were that easy, everyone would do it. Right. But before we start judging, let's challenge some of the stereotypes around why survivors stay in narcissistically abusive relationships longer than we might expect. And I want to shed just a compassionate eye onto what they're going through. It's easy for those on the outside to judge and question, but the truth is these situations are so complex, and it's not always as simple as just leave the narcissist. It's not always that simple. There are so many contributing factors as to why narcissism survivors, decide to stay. And it could be trauma bonds, it could be fear, and sometimes the hope that things will change and that they will get better. And we can feel like we're in a tangled web, caught between the desire for love and the reality of narcissistic abuse. And these complex reasons for staying that often stem from deep-seated trauma and an altered self-perception of self that comes from the manipulation involved in narcissistic abuse. And narcissism survivors can find themselves, thinking maybe I'm the problem, or I can fix them. I'll be the one. I'll be the one, which only reinforces the cycle of manipulation and just increases the despair over time. It can be so hard to speak out against the very narcissistic person who has made us feel small. So reclaiming our voice can feel like reaching for the stars, and when we're stuck in a dark room. And ending an abusive relationship with a narcissist is hard. It's very hard. Fear of retaliation is a very serious shadow that we all have to contend with. And narcissists are very vindictive, callous, and very scary people. They can be so unhinged. The anxiety can be overwhelming, almost paralyzing, making it feel like a storm that's raging within us. And the idea of closure that might come more easily in a healthier relationship with someone who isn't narcissistic. Yeah, well, in those cases, you can just pack up and walk away. But with a narcissistic abuse, it's more like trying to navigate a minefield, because every step is a trap that's never clean, that's never clear. There's never a smooth path out. So what do? We look for our way out of narcissistic, crap storm, and remember that countless of others have also walked this path. And not all victims leave the narcissist, some stay, but still find a way to work on themselves, to get support that they need to manage what they're going through. And their resilience is also an inspiration, reminding us that recovery is possible no matter what phase of the recovery journey that you're on. I have talked a lot about unhealthy relationships. You know what an unhealthy relationship is, because you're in one with a narcissist. So let's delve into healthy relationships, what they look like. Unlike those toxic games that are played in narcissistic relationships that get us all tangled, and our brains get all scrambled, and our minds get all messed up. Healthy relationships are built on, mutual respect and compassion, which narcissists just don't have. So when challenges in healthy relationships arise, you can trust that, your partner will honor your healing time. And even if you break up, post breakup allows you, both of you, to move on without drama and distress. And the opposite happens post breakup with a narcissist. This is like a scene from a horror movie. It's like, the claws come out and the fangs are exposed and their eyes go black like a zombie, and they just don't go away. They just find some way to just keep torturing us again and again. And healthy breakups, they don't involve threats or stalking or violence. They're all characterized by understanding and kindness. But with a narcissist, the situation turns toxic quickly, like very quickly. Why? Because the narcissist has suffered an ego injury. I know, an ego injury. Can you imagine? All of this is because they have a wounded ego. This is their pride that's at stake. All of this, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. When people aren't narcissistic are far less likely to try to get retaliation. So that's things like smear campaigns and gaslighting, and looking to do more damage to their victims. They don't need to control or manipulate the narrative because they respect you as a person. But a narcissist uses these breakups to try to hurt you even further, to stab a knife even deeper into your soul. And it's horrible, though, for those who have to go through it. And what's missing in narcissistic relationships is mutual respect and honoring boundaries. In a healthy breakup, partners acknowledge the need for space and boundaries, especially if manipulation and abuse were part of the relationship dynamic. But, and this is a big but, narcissistic abusers often see boundaries that are just something to be pushed or ignored, leaving their victims feeling like they have to defend their own sanity, because that's what we're doing. We're fighting for our own insanity here. And what narcissists don't want or refuse to give us is space and time to get closure and recovery. And with narcissistic abusers, trying to get closure is like teaching a unicorn to do your taxes while singing show tunes. It's not possible. And us, we find ourselves, worrying about, what our abuser's next move will be, what the next threat that our partner will do, how will they treat their next partner, right? And this is all the thoughts that linger in the back of our minds, and it can taunt us as we start our own healing journey. And sometimes we might feel that we need to apologize or hope for some form of cosmic karma before we can truly let go and move on. And it's a heavy burden to carry. When we heal from the trauma, we give ourselves closure in these narcissistic relationships. And don't get me wrong, we don't have to ever forgive the narcissist or forget what they did. We don't. It's not mandatory. It's just not. What we do have to do is find a way to forgive ourselves, to heal our wounds. And even though we didn't cause them, we are responsible for fixing us. And narcissists can never heal their victims. They can't. But well, we can do it. We can do the healing ourselves. And in the end, we realize is we don't need them. We never did. We just learn to lean on ourselves, right? And by standing up for ourselves again. And here's the reality for recovery from narcissism: closure comes from within. It becomes this lesson that so many of my clients have learned through personal healing and recovery. It's about, realizing that the journey to find closure is ours and ours alone. We don't need permission or validation from our abusers. We don't. We recognize that any new partner of our abuser will likely face the same abusive patterns, no matter how charming or loving they seem at first. And the real reality is of narcissistic relationships is that another victim may one day experience exactly what you have. And a new victim will also find strength in recovery, just like you are doing right now, just by watching this. And what we're talking about is breaking the cycle, the abuse cycle of narcissistic abuse. And it's so important. This is where we can look back to see that the apologies from our abusers during those idealization phases were never genuine, never truly remorseful. And they were, just manipulative tactics designed to keep you on your back and keep others at bay. And this is how narcissists operate, using deceit to maintain control over their victims. Narcissistic abuse changes our view of the world. To survive, we often find ourselves viewing the world through a distorted lens crafted by our narcissists. Narcissists want us to see ourselves as defective until we realize that that was a lie. It just leads to feelings of, worthlessness and learned helplessness. It's a heartbreaking reality that this self view can perpetuate. It's a cycle of self doubt and undervalue of our worth. And breaking free from this narcissistic abuse cycle, it starts by recognizing that our worth is inherent. We were born with it, and we were not defined by the cruel words of the narcissist. And each step towards healing from narcissism is a testament to our strength. We deserve to reclaim our lives and see ourselves through the compassionate eyes that we deserve, our own eyes. Those eyes are ours, they're no one else's, because we deserve to be who we actually are, to see ourselves for our best selves after narcissistic abuse. And it's important to understand the internal conflict that so many survivors of narcissistic abuse face. So, narcissistic abuse survivors can feel confident, successful, and even beautiful to the outside world. And, feel beautiful on the inside as well. We just have to get through the initial storm that we have. It's like being at a masquerade ball where everyone, admires your mask, and underneath, we're like grappling with fear and negative self-talk and shaky self-esteem. And this mess of emotions and our anxiety is because our narcissist conditioning and the manipulation is designed to make us doubt ourselves at every turn. And this is because manipulative relationship dynamics we experience in narcissistic relationships, they keep us stuck. Narcissism survivors can find themselves, conditioned to accept bare minimum, a compliment here, superficial "I love you" there. This creates a relentless cycle of seeking an unattainable, unconditional love that a narcissist just doesn't have or can never give. And we can like it's kind of like we're thirsty for affection that we never truly get. It includes, we can't get respect from the narcissist, we can't get compassion from narcissists. Narcissists have trained us to believe that love is a reward that we must earn, rather than a fundamental right that we were born with, which is absolutely true. And then there's the compassion and self doubt that just gnaw away at our confidence. And this is part of how our brains try to make sense of our experiences with a narcissistic abuser. We might find ourselves looking at others in happy relationships, remembering how our narcissist idealized us or vilified their ex-partners. This can lead to troubling thoughts like, "What's wrong with me?" And it's exhausting mental gymnastics routine that where the only prize is more pain. Um, so just remember this: the problem lies not within us, but within the toxic nature of the abusive narcissistic relationship itself. And remember, the narcissistic abuse tactics are meant to keep us on edge. Narcissists play mind games. It's in their nature. They use, comparisons and triangulations to blame us for the abuse, for their behavior. And it's just how narcissists think. Narcissists want us to feel inadequate. They want to further isolate us from with their tightening control and create more and more power over us. And it's a cruel strategy designed to maintain a narcissist dominance, making us question our worth at every single turn. Narcissists derive like this twisted, malignant, just pleasure from belittling others for what? A quest for dominance, a quest for control. Narcissists take joy in diminishing those whose traits or successes that they envy, reinforcing their own delusions and their sense of superiority. And it's this perverse game for one narcissist, where it's just like your pain feeds their ego, and it's just like, whoa, that is just so messed up. Now, when it comes to ending the relationship, survivors of narcissistic abuse, what ends up happening is that we have to wrestle with heavy emotional burden. And the thought of leaving a narcissist can feel like a mountain too steep to climb. And we might convince ourselves that doing so would confirm a narcissistic abuser's delusions, and that maybe they're true. And since they are still true in our own minds, bouncing around in our skulls, those thoughts just they kind of feel like super balls, just bouncing around, and then they don't belong there. They weren't put there by us. They're not our true thoughts. And this creates a cycle of fear and doubt, making it seem like ending the relationship with a narcissist is a personal failure of our own causing. It's just like it's BS. When we're leaving a narcissist, this is someone who just flips between showering us with affection and then withdrawing and leaving us confused and heartbroken. Just know that these feelings do make sense. They do make sense in that moment, and if we give ourselves a little bit more time to process, we see things a little bit differently. And it's okay to take time to process, because healing from narcissistic abuse is like learning to walk again after a severe injury. Yeah, it's tough. We're going to limp for a while, absolutely, and the road is going to be filled with bumps, and it's going to be filled with detours. But we have the strength within us to reclaim our life and to heal and to walk together in this path that we want to walk. Without a narcissist telling us what to do, because everyone deserves, love, and that is genuine, that is compassionate, that is uplifting, not one that leaves us feeling like we've been gutted like a fish and stuffed and hung on a wall where we're like someone else's trophy. It's just not the way that life works, because narcissists are brilliant at manipulation. They're just brilliant at it. Just brilliant. Narcissists can twist anything like a pretzel, especially emotions, feelings, raw emotions, real feelings. And how do narcissists do that? They swing between affection and hostility, just like it's a game of tennis. It has no end, just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it doesn't end. Because one moment the narcissist will shower us with love, and the next they will leave us feeling like, we're the problem, not them. And this emotional merry-go-round, leaves survivors questioning our own worth and our own reality. And what is it that we actually want? Yeah, we're in a toxic environment, wanting and struggling to get something from a narcissist that would uses what for bait? They use affection. They bait us with affection, and it can feel like we're fighting a never-ending battle to win a narcissist's love and approval. Narcissists love people with people-pleasing tendencies, combined with deep-seated fears of rejection and abandonment. We might find ourselves chasing after crumbs of affection from a narcissist, desperately hoping that this time things will be different. And what does this do? It triggers fear of abandonment that seems to take root in the brains of narcissism survivors. Just the thought being left by a narcissist can trigger intense feelings of unworthiness. And the fear is stoked like a fire by the narcissist as a way to keep you, dependent, trapped in the cycle of self-doubt and helplessness. And we may feel paralyzed, afraid to make a move because, it could mean losing everything that you thought you had. And the journey of healing and reclaiming self-worth after being with the narcissist is something that everyone deserves. And the healing process from narcissism involves rediscovery of your true self, peeling away the layers of toxic habits and beliefs that have accumulated from exposure to your narcissist and past experience. It's about recognizing that we are worthy of love and respect, something that a narcissistic abuser tries to convince us otherwise. Narcissists, they lie and they lie. And you know what else they do? They also lie. They lie as well. They do it so convincingly that many of us believe them, and it's only for a short time. Yeah, but what a horrible time that is, right? And leaving a narcissist and maintaining no contact is monumental and liberating step towards your recovery journey. For those who are able to do it, it's like taking a deep breath after being underwater for too long. And you finally have the chance to reclaim your life and your identity. Narcissists suck us into this toxic dance that can, strip us of our former self. Rebuilding our life after an experience with a narcissist is no walk in the park. It's not. I wish it was. It's a challenge that requires confronting and processing the traumas that we endured without the usual dependence on mechanisms that have kept you feeling safe for so long, right? And being with a narcissist can feel like stepping into a boxing ring after being knocked down repeatedly. But this fight is for your life, so we have to get up and we have to keep going, and we are going to fall a few times, absolutely, but we stay up. We're good once we stand up finally, once we leave. Because survivors of narcissism find ourselves trapped in rationalization and denial, convincing ourselves that maybe it wasn't that bad, because maybe we deserved it. Right? And this is a coping strategy that can lead to what's known as abuse amnesia. This is where the brain just buries the painful memories with the narcissist under layers of confusion and self doubt, making it even harder for us to reclaim our own reality. And with severe narcissistic abuse, we might dissociate. And that's a way for our mind to cope mentally, separating from the trauma. It's like hitting the mute button on our life, allowing the narcissist to carry on while you fade away into the background. But here's the catch: staying in a narcissistic relationship can sometimes feel latch on to the positive aspects, those fleeting little moments of love, those little flattering moments of intimacy with the narcissist. And that's our brain survival strategy. Despite all the chaos, we've learned to just ignore it and make it disappear, force it out of our own mind. But we can't forget those things. We cannot forget the abuse. When a narcissist feels like they're losing you, what they might do, they might actually turn up the charm, right? And that just perpetuates all that brainwashing and gaslighting, those coping strategies we had in our minds at the beginning. And the narcissistic manipulation during these good times can create this warped sense of reality, leaving you to believe that the good outweighs the bad. And this is where abuse amnesia kicks in, and it's a psychological shield that we create. It's like the brain eraser that goes in there and hits the delete button and all the bad things that the narcissist has done during, the brighter phases of the narcissist abuse cycle. The narcissist's occasional kindness can make us forget about those dark moments. And what is it? We're left wondering why we can't just walk away when these things that used to seem fine. And it's like living in two worlds at the same time, and it's very complex. And what does that leave us feeling? It feels dissociation, right? We're dissociated. And this happens as a response to prolonged narcissistic trauma. It helps with survival, yeah, but complicates the hell out of recovery. It's like trying to juggle while riding a unicycle. And every time we think that we've got it, a narcissist pulls the rug from under us. And then boom, we're on the ground. All the balls of the air just come crashing down to earth. They make us believe that we can accomplish the impossible. And as soon as we start to get close, the rules change. And then boom, we're on a flat on our back. And narcissists have a knack for creating trauma bonds in their victims, and that can feel as strong as steel chains sometimes. And narcissistic relationships are built on shaky foundations of emotional manipulation, where the love and respect that we crave, are often just masked by deceptions of charm. And it's a cruel twist of fate. We find ourselves, loving someone who has turned love into a weapon. And the reality is, the moment that we try to break free from this toxic narcissistic cycle, we're not just battling the end of the relationship, we're also grappling with the echoes of the past trauma that have been woven into our lives. And we have to overcome as well. So think about it. If you grew up in an environment where you're witnessing, domestic violence, where that becomes the norm, well, we might unknowingly find ourselves drawn into the same dynamics in adulthood. It's like watching a tragic play on repeat. You might identify with a victimized parent, and subconsciously seek partners who mirror that behavior, thinking that we can somehow fix the past, the lessons that we learned and ingrained from our own past that we're now reliving in our adulthood. And this is a subconscious, by the way, this is completely subconscious. And this cycle of narcissistic abuse can trap us in familiar dance, leaving us wondering why we can't break free. It's not it's not kid ourselves. I don't want to kid ourselves. It's the notion that childhood trauma doesn't leave scars is just simply a myth. If we were exposed to violence and chaos as a child, it's not just going to vanish when we grow older. No, it's going to linger like an unwelcome ghost, haunting us in our adult relationships. And we may find ourselves caught in a web of fear and self doubt, questioning our worth and our ability to find healthy love. But here's where the story shifts. The end of a narcissistic relationship can be a powerful turning point. It offers you a crucial opportunity to dig deep, to address the wounds that we've been carrying for so long. It's a chance to finally reclaim our life and take back our lives from the narcissist who just wants to control us. We take that control away. Who's in control? We're the ones in control. We've always been in control. And when we leave a narcissistic abuser, we're not just closing a chapter, we're stepping into a new narrative where we can act, think, and feel independently for the very first time. And for some, it's the first time of our lives. And independence after narcissistic abuse is like breaking free from a long, heavy winter. We begin to thaw out. And when we go through the thaw, what do we discover? We discover that, on the outside of this narcissistic control, as the snow melts, what do we see? We see like this bloody mess. A muddy mess, I meant. It's dirty outside. We just see the states of our lawn and the stuff that we've been left there. For some people, it's years of stuff that we've kind of buried in the snow, and it's time to clean it all up. And look, it's scary to confront our pain alone. I get that. But that fear is just part of the process. Allowing ourselves the space and time to reflect on our experiences with a narcissist can lead to profound growth. Looking back at what we went through without judgment, with understanding, we see things differently. We can see through the lies, the narcissistic manipulation, and under those layers, what do we find? We find that we are worthy of love and respect. And the journey to reclaim ourselves is one of the most empowering things that we can do. And I have thousands of clients over the years that will tell you the same thing, that this experience can be the most liberating experience and most powerful thing that they've ever done. Many of my clients, they follow my feed. They make comments on my post daily, and you can hear what their stories are. And they're taking their awareness and their growth to help inspire others through this recovery process, because you're worth it. You do deserve to heal. You are worth the investment, because we all know that narcissists, excel at creating toxic environments where survivors of abuse often bear the weight of blame, from which it's so suffocating. So imagine waking up every day like, the world is pointing fingers at us, as if the situation is always our fault. And this social stigma makes it harder to break free from narcissistic abuse as well. Meaning family and friends might just say, why don't you just leave the narcissist the first time they hurt you? Instead, of what we really need to hear, which is just understanding that these questions can actually intensify our experiences of isolation, of shame, and self-doubt, leaving survivors of narcissism trapped in this cycle of second guessing their own choices. And judgment from others as we recover from narcissism can be paralyzing. And this judgment, it comes in all angles, from friends, from family, even the criminal justice system and the family court system. It becomes daunting to even think about speaking out or leaving a narcissistic partner. We might feel like we're walking on eggshells, worried that sharing our experiences will only lead to further shame and stigmatization. So this fear can hold us captive, absolutely, silencing our voices when we should be heard and we should be speaking out our loudest. So for now, we can only imagine a world where societal perceptions change, where narcissistic abuse survivors are seen with compassion rather than judgment. We have communities like Narcovery, and these communities are like a micro world within a bigger world. But it is a safe place to share, to learn, to connect, a place where we can begin to acknowledge the struggles of those who have been faced with the wrath and narcissism. In time, this community will grow, and in real world, then things will shift as well, and can empower more and more people, more survivors to seek help to report narcissistic abuse earlier without the fear of being blamed. Because until the world changes, support networks are crucial. And recovery is just one of those amazing communities, with active chats going on every day, that people can kind of join and be part of. And you can find more information on a lot of the programs that I have. I have weekly groups that we meet every week. You can find information on that on narcovery.com. I have courses. This information I can give. You can go through the courses, and you can go through the programs and go through the recovery on your own pace. And also do one-on-one, where it's just you and me working through all of the drama, everything that you've been through. We're just unpack it piece by piece by piece. And the reason that the nurses their recovery even exists is because we believe survivors need to know that they're not alone in this fight, that they deserve to be heard and understood and valued. Is when narcissism survivors have a network that genuinely cares for their well-being, their chances to heal and rebuild their lives become much, much stronger. And it's the opposite of narcissism, right? Narcissists can make everything more difficult, and recovery is here to make things easier. Because narcissists thrive on misunderstanding and misperceptions, often leaving survivors of their abuse feeling isolated and unheard. And yeah, we carry the scars from that tell stories of our survival. It's not weakness. What we went through isn't a weakness. It's stories of our survival. And any judgment that often comes from people who, never face narcissistic trauma themselves, they just don't understand. And judging survivors of narcissism for our scars, well, it's like watching a movie without any context, thinking that, the critique the character's choices made without understanding the entire storyline, right? You can't judge a movie by a clip. Right? They just don't understand. Finding empowerment through a narcissism community can be a game changer for survivors. Being part of a group of survivors fosters, deep connections and a sense of belonging in a world that often feels isolating. And these bonds can provide, invaluable support and understanding. In recovery and other narcissism support platforms, you will see survivors can share their unique empathy and insights, helping each other navigate their healing journey. It's like finding a lifeline when the waves of abuse feel overwhelming. And learning to use our communal voice is a powerful aspect of recovery from narcissism. Survivors who find their voices not only advocate for themselves, but also for others, creating a ripple effect of empowerment. By connecting with supportive communities, we can reach out to those who have experienced similar situations, which strengthens their own healing process and helps, others grow along the way. Because in this sacred space, survivors can reclaim their narrative and assert their own worth in a world that often tries to diminish them. In narcissistic relationships, we find ourselves, navigating just this Mesopotamia of emotions and struggling to balance the unbalanceable power dynamics. Because the ways that we were raised and the survival strategies that many victims of narcissism cling to, they're familiar to us, even when it's painful. Holding on to something that, even though it hurts us, becomes too much to bear, and then we have to let go. It's as if we're stuck on a sinking ship, knowing that we need to jump, but we hesitate because the waters rising up around us. But the decision to leave isn't just about feeling ready. It's layered, and it's complex hurdles that we might be struggling with, our feelings of anxiety, of depression, that the narcissist has often intensified over time. And financial dependence on our narcissistic abuser can trap us. And if we have children, The fear of losing them can feel overwhelming. The threat of physical violence can be such a serious threat with narcissism abuse survivors, making it even harder to take that next step. So just know that we understand. Even when we have a plan to escape, planning and there's always a little hesitation that can kind of keep us stuck. And we often dream about what life would be like outside the narcissistic relationship, but when the moment comes to actually act, a flood of what ifs can suddenly freeze us into place. And it's natural to feel this way, because for many of us, we've been conditioned to doubt ourselves. And true inner transformation occurs when we begin to recognize what our own worth is. This is a journey out of narcissistic bonds. Is not about seeking validation from others, but about finding that light from within ourselves. It's like discovering a switch in a dark room and finally illuminates the path that's ahead, helping us to see what's possible through the pain, beyond the pain, on the other side of the pain. And ultimately, self-determination becomes our guarding force out of these narcissistic trauma bonds. The decision to leave, must come from within each and every one of us, marking a powerful reclaiming of giving us power, or finding our personal power and our autonomy without a narcissist in our lives. And when we choose to take that leap, we're not just breaking free from the narcissistic cycle of narcissistic abuse. We're stepping into a future where we define our worth and our happiness on our own terms. And this leap is contagious. It's a contagious act of self love, opening the door to a life that's filled with hope and possibility, because we can find our way towards healing and reclaim our lives and get the lives that we deserve. And to do that, to achieve a state of mental readiness, to leave an abusive narcissistic relationship is an incredibly important part of the journey. It's like reaching the summit of a mountain after a long and grueling climb, because we finally prepared to leave and to heal and take back control over our lives. The state of mind, it doesn't come easy. It doesn't. It requires deep introspection. It requires courage, but is an important step towards reclaiming our sense of self. And what and as we stand, at this crossroads, reflection on past decisions when we were in a survival state where the narcissist can be both enlightening and enlightening path, seeing what took us to where we became right now. It's essential to remember that the complexities of these situations are often far more intricate than they first appear on the outside. There is no simple way of telling your life story. The strength it took to endure and ultimately decide to leave a narcissist should not be underestimated. Every moment spent in a narcissistic relationship was part of our journey, shaping who we are today. And once we've taken that brave step forward out of the narcissistic traps that we did not even see, we step into something new. We shift our focus towards healing and self-compassion. And this is where the real work of recovery from narcissism begins, the aftermath of leaving an abuser that's filled with emotional turbulence. And we must allow ourselves, the space to heal from that trauma, because a journey to recovery from narcissism is not a straight path. It's filled with ups and downs. And each step that we take brings us closer towards freedom and peace that we deserve. Because what we're doing is, I'm just going to wrap up this video now, and thank you so much for those of you who have stayed. We are exploring the intricate and often painful journey of narcissism abuse recovery, and what we've talked about is just shedding light onto the emotional manipulation that narcissists employ. We've grappled with feelings of unworthiness, the self-doubt that comes in these abusive relationships, the fear of abandonment that many of us experience. We've talked about the challenging dynamics that keep us trapped in narcissistically abusive relationships, and the immense courage that it takes to break free from these toxic cycles. And on top of that, we've discussed how we as survivors often face societal stigma and victim blaming, questioning our choices and battling the judgments of others. And yet, through all of these struggles, ourselves. There's a profound strength and a resilience that emerges, because we recognize that healing is a multifaceted journey requiring time, self-compassion, and the realization that we are worthy of love and respect. We see the importance of the power of narcissism recovery communities like Narcovery, when survivors of narcissism connect with one another and share their insights and support. That they can be transformative. Each story matters, and together, we can create a space where healing thrives. So if you're still feeling overwhelmed, if you still need more support, just know that the recovery community is here. You can find me here on YouTube, on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I do lives regularly and talking to my community. I also have a weekly group that meets in North America. It meets every Wednesday. In Europe, it meets every Tuesday. And you're free to join that. Just go to narcovery.com/healing-circle, and you can join our community that way. And you can also book an appointment if you want to just chat. I think that if the one-on-one support is what is going to get you through this complex journey, then do that. And you can also, if it's just information that you're looking for, I've got courses, and they're on Black Friday sale right now. I haven't actually advertised them yet, but they're all prices already discounted. So you can go to narcovery.com and get access to those. And what I just want to remind everyone is that together, we can foster healing and resilience one step at a time. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. Love you guys.